Welcome back. Now, Namibia soon joins the world to commemorate World Children's Day, a significant annual event celebrating children's rights and well-being worldwide. Now, this year, the regional World Children's Day commemoration will be held in Victoria Falls, Zimbabwe, focusing on inclusive, relevant, and quality education. Now, Namibia will be sending a delegation of 15 students from Kavango East, Omaheke, and the Kharas region to participate. Now, joining us this morning with more details is Ms. Judy Matjila, who is the UNICEF Namibia Communications and Partnership Specialist. Good morning, ma'am, and welcome to GMN.
Morning. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Let's talk about World Children's Day. What does that entail, and what is the theme for this year?
Okay. World Children's Day is a day that the world looks back at the rights that we have either achieved in terms of the rights of children, but as well also we take a setback to look at what are the challenges that still are facing children today. But before I go on to the theme, I would like to say why is it important for us as Namibia. Yes. If you remember in 1989, and I think a lot of children today were not born yet, and some of them were still babies, there were a lot of changes that were taking place globally. Firstly, the Berlin Wall fell. The same month in November, there was a ceasefire in Angola to stop the war in Angola. But what was important here home was for the first time, Namibians went to the polls to elect their government as a free Namibia. So it is at the same time in November that on the 20th November 1989, the United Nations General Assembly came together and adopted the Convention on the Rights of the Child. So this is very significant to Namibia because it is through the Convention of the Rights of the Child that we created our policies. If you remember, in 1990, immediately 6 months after independence, the founding father, President Dr. Sam Nujoma, went to the General Assembly for the first time, and on the 28th of September in 1990, signed and ratified the convention. So we are one of the first countries in the world to rectify the convention. Hence, it's of such a big significance to the country.
Okay. This year's theme emphasizes inclusive, relevant, and quality education. Let's talk about how this aligns to Namibia's priorities and what steps are being taken really to improve especially access to education for all children in Namibia, especially from UNICEF's point of view.
As I said, our policies are aligned really to the Convention of the Rights of the Child, but there's a lot of steps that have been taken in that regard since 1990. An example of the achievements that Namibia has done with partners like UNICEF is the national disability policy that was created in 2021, a forum, sorry. It is through that forum that we were enabled to come together, different stakeholders, and look at how best can we make sure that children with disabilities issues are included in all policies across the sectors. Another achievement that we have made is as part of right to participation, we are seen as a beacon of hope globally with the Children's Parliament. This year, we already had a 6th session of the Children's Parliament where we brought together over 90 children across the 14 regions representing the voices of children. So I think as a step forward, Namibia is seen as, walking the talk, making sure that children's voices are heard and they become part and parcel of the decision makers, and they help us in solving their own challenges.
Now, with those successes that you are mentioning that have taken place where you've collaborated with government, what are perhaps some of those areas where there are still some challenges that, we have made progress, but we are not yet where we want to be, and maybe taking to consider this year's theme that we want to address those to ensure that, we get there?
Yeah, challenges and emerging challenges happen on an annual basis. And as we say, child participation is important. We recognize the role of children in identifying those challenges. And fortunately for Namibia, like I said, In July, we had the 6th session of the Children's Parliament, and they told us what are the challenges. We know, but we wanted to hear from them what are their priorities and what the challenges should we still have to address. And the first challenge that the children mentioned was climate change. I think with the looming drought that we're experiencing now, we can all agree that climate change is affecting children more. It affects their education, because if there's no water, children don't go to school. It affects their livelihood, because if there's no rain, then poverty becomes more. So children do not have access to schooling because of that. So climate change was one of the key issues that we really, really need to look at. The second issue is the issue of inclusion in schools. We know that although the Ministry of Education has taken steps to make sure that we have an inclusive education, we still have the issue of physical access. Our schools are not made in such a way that a child on a wheelchair will have access to every school in the country. So these are the issue, the second issue that the children brought. The third one, the concern that was raised, was boys' education. We're talking about inclusive and access to all, but we see, and UNAM's study that took place last year showed us that about 67% of our boys are not graduating. So there's something that we need to do about that. And the Children's Parliament session this year really highlighted that we need to make sure that the education curriculum that we have is appealing to boys. So these are some of the challenges that we, together with the Ministry of Education and the government and the different sectors, are trying to address as UNICEF.
Okay. Now, we understand that there will be students that will be going to Victoria Falls in Zimbabwe based on the theme, it's participating, these 15 students. What does a regional celebration, World Child Day commemoration, what does it entail?
Oh, there's so much excitement there. The children will actually be leaving today, these 15 children, and they'll be joined by children from 6 other countries. As you know, the regional celebration started in 2021 in Botswana, Kazungula. At the time, it was only Namibia, Botswana, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. This year, for the first time, we're having other 3 countries joining us, Malawi, Mozambique, and South Africa. And all the heads of states of the 7 countries will be there. And for children, there's an opportunity really to learn from their peers. And we're hopeful that they will share the challenges and the gains that have been made by their countries in the 7 countries. But more so, I think there's an opportunity also to make friends. When children share ideas and looking at the future together, this is a very important thing for them to hear what their peers are saying and to rally with each other. And I think they will find out that the challenges that they face in Namibia are not unique, that other children in the region also are facing the same challenges.
Okay. Now, as we wrap up our conversation this morning, perhaps let's talk about what are some of the new, initiatives, or even possibly ones that you've gotten from the Children's Parliament in Namibia that recently set in order to ensure that we undertake to create a more child-friendly environment in Namibia, and perhaps that they will also be able to share this with our neighboring countries.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of exciting, innovative work. We know in order for our children to have an inclusive and a more vibrant education system, we need to innovate. It cannot be business as usual. And as UNICEF, we've been working with the Ministry of Education to bring in connectivity to schools. As we speak, about over 1,600 schools have been mapped out for connectivity. And this is out of the 2,400 schools that we have in the country. We are also currently working with the local telecom companies to make sure that we have the fiber to those schools that do not have accessibility. And the reason is we noted with COVID-19 that digital connectivity.
Yes.
It's very, very key.
Key.
So this is one of the innovative ways that we are trying to ensure that we have continuous access to education in the country. And we are hopeful that through a public-private partnerships with all the stakeholders in the country, we'll be able to achieve that in the next 5 years.
Okay. Well, Madam Judy Matjila, thank you very much for making time to speak to us this morning, and may the journey to Victoria Falls, if you are traveling, be a safe one.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay. Now that was Judy Matjila, who is a UNICEF Namibian Communications and Partnership Specialist, talking to us about the World Children's Day that is being celebrated in terms of regional World Children's Day commemoration taking place in Victoria Falls, Zimbabwe, where to be focusing on a theme that is inclusive, relevant and quality education. Namibia will be sending a delegation of 15 students from Kavango East, Omaheke and Kharas region to participate, and this delegation, we understand, will be leaving today. We wish them a safe journey and looking forward to receiving their outputs from that meeting when they engage with other young people from the region. Now stay tuned as Ndapo Ambabi is bringing you the 7 o'clock news bulletin.